Good evening to all movie enthusiasts. Our film today is called We Have a Ghost, and it tells the story of a family that moves into a new house, which turns out to be haunted by a ghost. The ghost becomes acquainted with one of the family members and becomes their friend, but their lives take a chaotic turn because of this ghost. Let's dive in and see what happens. The film begins with a family of 4 who move to a new house in a new city because the father got a job there. The family consists of the father, Frank, the mother, Melanie, and their 2 children, Kevin and Fulton. However, at that time, Kevin, their son, didn't want to move to the new house because he loved their old house and was forced to move with them against his will. Frank would often leave the car to let their son enter the house, hoping that the change of scenery would make him forget about their old house and the city altogether. During that time, Kevin had a strained relationship with his family. He was introverted and preferred to live on his own, avoiding communication with them as much as possible. He spent most of his time with his beloved music. His relationship with his father was particularly strained, as they constantly argued. Then, Frank took his eldest son and entered the house that the real estate agent had found for them at a very low price, despite its large size. The house had been vacant for many years. Frank and Melanie suspected that such a large house being sold at a low price was suspicious. However, the real estate agent informed them that the price was low because there hadn't been many offers for it. She convinced them to buy the house, and they indeed purchased it and started moving their belongings inside until they settled in. Night fell, and they had already moved all their belongings. Frank sat with his family, trying to lighten the atmosphere by playing music to cheer them up and help them get used to the new house. Everyone seemed happy except Kevin, their son, who was always depressed. Frank tried to make him feel better but ended up arguing with him, which means trying to cheer him up and not according to your mood. However, Kevin told him, "This is my way, and I can't adapt to the house." Frank became frustrated and left, walking away. Afterward, everyone went to their respective rooms to sleep. Kevin, while lying down, felt uneasy despite his attempts to calm his mind. He wanted to sleep and clear his mind a bit, but as he was trying to sleep, he heard a knocking sound coming from the second floor. He took a flashlight and went upstairs to see what was happening. As he searched, he suddenly encountered a ghost in front of him. The ghost tried to frighten him, but Kevin found it amusing because he saw those same antics being used by children to scare each other when they were young. The ghost then vanished, leaving Kevin calling out to him to come back, but the ghost didn't appear again. And as he tried to sleep and calm his mind a bit, he heard a sound coming from the second floor, a knocking sound. He grabbed the flashlight and went upstairs to see what was happening. As he searched, he suddenly encountered a ghost appearing before him. The ghost tried to scare him, but Kevin found it amusing because he recognized those old tricks that used to frighten children when they were young. The ghost then disappeared, not appearing again. The next day, Kevin went to his school, where he sat trying to research ghosts to understand their appearance and how to deal with them in the house. However, at that moment, a girl named Joey appeared and called out to him, asking if he could help her with a simple favor. He replied, "Of course, I can help you, sweetheart." He entered a room with her and found her wiping things off the wall. She informed him that the girls at school were bullying her and asked him to help erase the phone numbers and words on the wall that bothered her. He assisted her, and as they finished, they got to know each other. She learned that they had recently moved to the city and acquired the large house. When Joey discovered that they were living in the haunted house, she told him that the house was nicknamed Death House in the city due to the ghosts residing there, and people were afraid to approach it. Of course, Kevin knew everything that was happening in the house because of the ghost he saw yesterday. However, he pretended in front of Joey that he didn't know anything and started to act surprised, despite knowing the truth about the entire house. Afterward, Joey told him, "Since you live in the big house, we're neighbors because I also live in the house in front of it. And since we're neighbors, we should hang out together and get to know each other more." Due to Kevin's introverted nature and difficulty adapting to people quickly, he replied, "Okay, I'll see when I'm free, and I'll talk to you," she said, "I'll be waiting for you," and then left. After that, Kevin returned to his own house and went upstairs to see the ghost that resided there. Suddenly, the ghost appeared before him again, attempting to scare him once more. However, Kevin remained unaffected. He knew that the ghost's appearance was funny and comical, and it couldn't scare him. He asked the ghost to sit with him, and they sat together, getting to know each other. Kevin tried to find out the ghost's name, true identity, or how it died in that house. However, at that moment, the ghost couldn't speak, and Kevin didn't know how to communicate with it. The ghost could only communicate through gestures and movements. Kevin noticed a name written on his t-shirt, Ernest. He asked the ghost, "Is your name Ernest?" But the ghost replied, "I don't remember." He couldn't remember if he died in that house or not because he was a ghost with no memory, unaware of anything. While they were talking, Fulton, Kevin's brother, came upstairs. The ghost quickly disappeared. Fulton approached Kevin, trying to take his phone from him. However, Kevin didn't want him to know the truth about the ghost that resided in their house. So Fulton hit Kevin and forcibly took his phone. But then the ghost intervened, as Kevin had become its friend. The ghost held Fulton and kept him away from Kevin. At that moment, Kevin couldn't believe what Ernest, the ghost, had done. Fulton also couldn't believe Kevin's newfound strength, which allowed him to throw him away with such force. However, Kevin was happy that the ghost defended him. Later that night, Fulton stole Kevin's phone without thinking much and discovered the truth about the ghost. Kevin entered the room, and Fulton informed him about the ghost's presence in the house. He also told their father, Frank, about it. At first, Frank didn't believe them, but after watching the video, he became convinced that there was indeed a ghost in the house. Despite all this, Frank and Fulton weren't afraid of the ghost. They saw it as something normal and unique in their house because it didn't harm anyone. Afterward, Frank asked Kevin to send him the video on his phone. Once he received it, he sat down and uploaded the video on YouTube because he wanted to get a lot of views and become famous. Day after day, the views increased until they reached 1,000. However, people didn't believe the reality of the video. They thought it was fabricated and that there was no ghost appearing in such a way and being treated normally. Frank and Fulton decided to record more videos of Ernest, the ghost, to convince people that there was a ghost in their house. Kevin was aware of their intentions and was very annoyed by their actions. After that, Frank took Fulton upstairs, holding their phones to capture the ghost's appearance and record it. But the ghost didn't appear. Instead, Kevin came upstairs and informed them that the ghost wouldn't show up because it was afraid of them. Then, Kevin grabbed his guitar and started playing it for Ernest, the ghost, to calm him down and make him appear. Indeed, Ernest calmed down, started appearing, and began talking to Kevin. Frank took advantage of everything happening and started recording the ghost. In that moment, Melanie, Frank's wife, came upstairs, holding the phone with the video that Frank had uploaded on YouTube of the ghost. And Frank started asking Melanie, "Is this ghost really present in our house or not?" Melanie couldn't speak because Ernest, the ghost, was standing behind her. Melanie turned around and found Ernest standing behind her. She screamed loudly, while Ernest himself became afraid and quickly disappeared. Afterward, Melanie sat down with her husband and children, and they started arguing because they had discovered the truth about the ghost in the house. None of them knew what was happening in the house, and Melanie was very upset that they hid it from her. However, Frank tried to make her laugh and assured her that he didn't want to scare her. He convinced her that there was no ghost in their house. Melanie realized that she couldn't stay in a house with another ghost. But Frank understood that the ghost wasn't harmful. Moreover, they planned to use the ghost to earn a lot of money through the videos they would record and share on YouTube and other online platforms. They aimed to generate a huge number of views. Initially, Melanie wasn't convinced, but when money came into the picture, she changed her mind and decided to join them in their endeavor. After that, Frank began uploading numerous videos of Ernest on YouTube, TikTok, and other social media platforms. Many trends emerged with Ernest's name, and Frank and his family became famous. The media started following them everywhere, seeking an exclusive interview. Frank was happy about everything happening and the rapid fame they achieved. He believed that it would bring them a lot of money from video views featuring Ernest. Amidst all this, Kevin didn't care about the videos or the money they generated. The only thing that mattered to him was Ernest, the ghost. Therefore, he spent a lot of time with Ernest, talking and trying to recall his past life and what had happened to him. They failed to find any clues about Ernest's past. However, Kevin was determined to continue his search and spent a lot of time researching online and visiting the school library for any helpful information related to Ernest. One day, Joey saw Kevin searching for information about Ernest in the library. She decided to help him, and together, they found a wealth of information about Ernest. They delved into it to uncover his true past. Meanwhile, Frank was being approached by many journalists who wanted to conduct interviews about Ernest. They were fascinated by everything happening at that time. The views on Frank's videos kept increasing, and he was delighted with everything unfolding. He saw it as something extraordinary that no one else could possess. Their fame grew day by day until one person named Liz came across all those videos. Liz used to work in intelligence agencies in the 90s and was an expert in paranormal phenomena. Their mission was to capture ghosts that posed a great danger to them, their family, the people living in the house, or the places where these ghosts appeared. However, the issue of intelligence agencies became famous in the 90s and reached the media. The media started criticizing the intelligence agencies for spending a huge amount of money on something supernatural that didn't exist in reality. They saw it as a waste of state funds. As a result, the intelligence agencies decided to suspend Liz's work and dismiss her from her position. Despite this, Liz, remembering her experience with them, decided to go back to the head of her intelligence agency at their headquarters to inform him about Ernest's ghost's reality. However, due to past events, the head of the intelligence agency expelled her and told her to leave. Liz couldn't remain silent, so she went to Frank and Melanie's house and informed them about the extreme danger of the ghost they had and the need to capture and confine it to its natural place where dangerous ghosts like him belonged. However, Frank, considering Ernest as a source of income, completely rejected the idea of letting him go. Consequently, he kicked Liz out of his house and banned her from entering. Meanwhile, Kevin and Joey conducted their research and discovered that the person who had lived in the house before them was named Schiller. They also found numerous pictures of Schiller with Ernest. However, since Ernest had amnesia, they couldn't learn his true nature or the story between him and Schiller. Therefore, they only had Schiller left to ask about Ernest's reality. They searched for him but couldn't find him in the city where he was known to be. They learned that he had moved to another distant city. Kevin and Joey decided to go to that distant city without informing their parents, as Frank would vehemently oppose the idea. They planned to take Ernest with them and, during the night, they quickly took Ernest and escaped from the place to search for Schiller and uncover Ernest's truth. Meanwhile, Liz was trying to persuade the head of the intelligence agency to attack Frank's house in order to capture Ernest. Indeed, she succeeded, and the intelligence agency contacted Liz at night with an official order to apprehend Ernest. They stormed into Frank's house, but they couldn't find Ernest because he had already escaped with Joey and Kevin. The authorities arrested Frank and Melanie, informing them of their mistake and apprehending them. The next morning, Frank was forced to publicly announce to the media that Ernest was an evil ghost who had kidnapped his children, Kevin and Joey. This was done to make everyone afraid of Ernest and report any sightings of him. The authorities started spreading throughout the entire city in order to find Ernest, Joey, and Kevin. Kevin became aware of the situation and became cautious, along with Joey and Ernest, to ensure nobody would take Ernest away from them and capture him. Later on, 2 police officers managed to locate Joey, Kevin, and Ernest at a supermarket and attempted to apprehend them. However, with Ernest's assistance, they were able to escape from the police quickly before getting caught and headed to a distant location. Afterwards, they managed to reach Schiller's house, and upon arrival, Kevin decided to enter and talk to Schiller to uncover Ernest's truth. Schiller immediately recognized Kevin and realized that he was the one living with Ernest, the ghost, in the same house. Schiller took Kevin and sat down with him, determined to reveal the entire truth about Ernest's past. He began by saying, "Ernest used to live with me in the past. He was married to my sister, and they had a lovely daughter. Their life was filled with love and happiness." Continuing, Schiller shared, due to his intense love for his wife, he couldn't bear to be without her. Unfortunately, one day, his wife fell severely ill and passed away. Schiller continued, after her death, Ernest lived alone and fell into depression. He turned to alcohol to numb his pain, eventually becoming an alcoholic. As a result, his life became ruined. One day, he came to me and handed me his daughter, telling me to take care of her while he went on a journey to fetch her back. Schiller explained further, but after that journey, Ernest never returned, and I couldn't find him anywhere. It wasn't until one day when I saw news about his death in the media that I learned Ernest had passed away. Schiller also revealed to Kevin that Ernest was not a good person because he abandoned his daughter due to his grief. Despite the fact that his daughter needed him, she was left alone in a difficult life without a father or mother. Upon hearing this, Kevin was shocked and found it hard to believe Ernest's reality. He felt that a part of the truth was missing, but Schiller didn't mention it as he only knew about Ernest from the days they spent together. Kevin believed that Ernest was a very good person. However, before they could continue their conversation, the police arrived with Liz, and they apprehended Joey. They entered the house, searching for Kevin and eventually captured him. They searched every corner for Ernest, aiming to arrest him. Then, Liz, equipped with devices capable of detecting supernatural entities, managed to locate Ernest and apprehend him. Afterwards, the government decided to release Joey and Kevin into the custody of Kevin's family, but they kept Ernest with them, placing him in a facility specifically designed for dangerous ghosts. In return, Kevin's life deteriorated significantly, and he fell back into a state of depression, loneliness, and introversion. This was because Ernest had been the foundation of his life all this time. Ernest was the only one he could interact with, go out with, and have constant conversations and jokes with most of the time. Since then, Kevin felt that his life lost all meaning, plunging him into a severe state of depression that worsened day by day. Despite Joey's attempts to help him and bring him out of his current state, Kevin remained trapped in a life of solitude and introversion. Afterward, when Frank saw his son's life deteriorating, he couldn't bear it and decided to enter Kevin's room at night, where Ernest would appear. Frank spoke to him and expressed his regret for everything he had done in the past. He promised to change, become a better person, and take care of them, fixing all the broken things, especially since Ernest was slipping away from his grasp, and Ernest was the foundation of his life. Here, Kevin decided to forgive his father, and they embraced each other. Meanwhile, Ernest was imprisoned and subjected to daily torture through electric shocks. Due to the intense torture and multiple electric shock sessions, Ernest's memories began to resurface, and he started recalling his past life, particularly his devoted care for his daughter. Until one day, Schiller offered him and his wife to take their daughter and raise her until he recovered and could take care of her again. At that time, Ernest believed they were safeguarding his life and standing by his side, unaware of the treachery they had planned. Schiller ended up killing Ernest and burying him in the backyard of the house that now belonged to Kevin. This betrayal occurred because neither of them wanted to leave Schiller and his wife. Schiller's wife didn't object to their plan because they wanted to take Ernest's daughter and raise her with them. Here, Ernest realized that Kevin was in danger because Schiller would not let Kevin live, knowing he would uncover the truth. Ernest tried every possible way to escape from the place he was imprisoned. Fortunately, Liz intervened and helped Ernest escape from prison. She conducted extensive research and discovered that Schiller was responsible for everything that had happened. She learned that Ernest was a kind-hearted person who had never harmed anyone. When Ernest was released, Melanie was waiting outside with a car, and she picked him up, driving him back to the house. Upon arriving, Schiller had reached Kevin's house and was threatening Frank and Volton, intending to kill Kevin. Schiller was armed with a gun, and although Frank tried to defend his son, Schiller managed to incapacitate both Frank and Volton. Afterward, Schiller searched the house for Kevin, intending to kill him. Eventually, he found Kevin hiding in a specific location where he was vulnerable, ready to kill him. However, Ernest intervened, saving Kevin, and he began to exact revenge on Schiller for everything he had done to him in the past. Ernest killed Schiller, and suddenly, Ernest disappeared, never to be seen again. But then the police arrived and apprehended Frank's family due to Schiller's death in their house. However, after extensive investigations, it was determined that killing Schiller was an act of self-defense because he had attacked them in their own home. Afterward, Kevin and Frank took Ernest's daughter and went to the agreed-upon location, where Ernest would remain hidden, allowing people to forget about him. There, Kevin reunited with his daughter, finding it hard to believe that after all this time, he could finally see her and embrace her. But then, Ernest's spirit began to fade, gradually disappearing forever. Before his disappearance, Ernest bid farewell to Kevin. Following that, Frank's family decided to leave the house and move to a new one, leaving behind the haunted house they had been residing in. Afterward, Kevin went to say goodbye to Joey, informing her that they would be moving to a house near hers and that he wouldn't abandon her. They would remain in constant contact because she had already become more than just a crush to him. The film concludes here.